You know, I live my life around entertainment and making people laugh and kind of look at the light side of things. And those of you who've been following me forever know I lost my mom, and I was a survivor of sexual abuse as a kid. Those things come with um, grief and loss, and I thought it was important enough to bring someone on who had the skill set to talk to me about it, and maybe you guys can pick up and learn something. With me is Danielle Dedone.
You got it. Hey
Okay.
there. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? I
Doing
try to get
well.
the name out really quick because I'm old,
It's okay.
and I might forget.
That's all right. It's not, it's not a normal, or I shouldn't say normal, but not a common last name, that
Okay,
you hear.
easier than her husband's last name.
Oh, yeah. We
So,
won't even go there.
so it's really just easier than that. Okay, so
Yes.
what is your title, for lack of a better word?
My title, I would just say I am a therapist.
Okay.
My actual credentials is LCSW, which stands for Licensed Clinical Social Worker, but that's a lot
Right.
to remember. So
Just
therapist is
remind.
probably the easiest way to
All right.
describe it.
So in therapy, there are so many platforms that people can choose from,
Yes.
and we decided we're going to talk about grief and loss
Yes. Yes.
because it's something I know. Because, like I said, I'm a survivor of sexual abuse as a kid,
Yeah.
and I lost my mom. But what happens is when you reach an age like mine, which is older than dirt, people start passing away.
Right.
People start coming out with things that happened to them. My brother um, ended up going into a coma.
Mm.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank God now he's out and okay.
Mm-hmm.
But these are things that we deal with. We deal with them when we're young too, but we deal with them more as we get older.
Right. Sure.
Okay, so is it hard to deal with that scenario with some like if I
Yeah.
were to call you and say, hey, you know what, I'm having a hard time.
Mm-hmm.
I lost my mom.
Right.
Okay, what's what goes through your mind? What's the plan, basically?
What's the plan? Well, for me, it's not, to be honest with you, it's not hard for me. And I know that might sound weird, but I just feel like, and it might sound corny too, but I just feel like this is like a gift that I've been given to be able to be there for someone during a time like you just described. Like for me, I feel like the biggest thing is having someone available to talk to or express feelings or like, is this normal? Like, should I be feeling this way? So just having that outlet, like, if your mom is dying or whatnot,
Right.
to have, because it's not a comfortable subject, I would imagine, like, or at least from my experience.
Well, my wife, I talk about, all right, do my will, and she's, I don't want to talk about it. I
Right.
don't want to talk about it. But none of us get out of here alive. I hate to be the bearer of bad news.
Yes.
Okay, so being prepared is so important.
Completely.
Okay, my
Hmm.
mom had long-term care,
Hmm.
and my mom had pre-need, so it made her
Right.
passing a little bit easier. Not easy, but a little bit easier.
Right.
So I'm going to tell you what I learned
Hmm.
years past your age.
Okay.
Okay, so what that gift that you think you have is,
Hmm.
in my opinion, is you are an empath. So you can take on these feelings
Yeah.
and then deal with them within your own mind, how you would deal with them, and then pass them back to the other person.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
Okay, so that's how I see it.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, so I want to help you along with that. Okay,
Yeah.
so do you like meet with people? Do they call you? I mean, how does it generally work?
Well, throughout my time, believe it or not, I've collectively have had experience with grief and loss for about 10 years. So most of my time as a I'll say therapist, So I've been in different capacities. I've been in hospice organizations where I've met them in a person's home, in the inpatient centers, at nursing homes, hospitals. More recently, I've been doing meeting with people more online because that seems to be, you know.
Not my favorite way of doing things, but it is for the years that we're in now. It
Yeah.
is commonplace,
Yes, it has, and it is. Yeah.
right? So
Hmm.
I'm going to guess. What's your preference? I would think that your preference would be face to face.
Yeah, you know what? And it was for a long time. And yeah, I think it still is. I think I like the mixed mode. I
Do you?
think yeah, you know what? I'm gonna be honest with you. Like as I'm getting older, I always say when I grow up, right? Like so when I grow
Don't
up.
ever go. It's overrated.
All right, I won't do that. I'll retract that. But as I gotten older, I don't have children yet, but we want to have children. So basically what I'm trying to get at is that I like the mixed mode in the sense of the flexibility that comes with that for personal reasons.
For being home.
Yes. Now, do I think it's most effective like what we're doing right now? Absolutely. I think there's just no matter what happens, how much time or technology or advancements, I think still that human connection in
Oh,
person is
well, yeah.
by far.
My wife was a listener to my show. She lived in Indiana when we met,
Mm-hmm.
and she would we spoke like 8 hours a day, and she would text me
Mm-hmm.
and then send me emails, and I'd read the first two lines because I had ADHD.
Mm.
Okay, and then we'd fight because it's just words on a screen, so it's very hard
Right.
for you not to um, get the meaning that was put into it if it's a text
Oh
or
yeah.
email.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
That's true.
if it's a call, there's a little more that you can get out of it.
Right.
But at face to face, when you can see somebody
Yeah.
and see when you're getting to them or what's getting to them,
Right.
I think that would be fun. I miss my calling. I should have been.
Yeah. Well, I know. What? There's still time. You can do that too.
So, is like we were talking about because I'm older and more things are happening, but
Yeah.
do you deal with children too?
To be honest, I don't.
Okay.
I don't deal with children. Predominantly, I'm like adults. I would say, well, in the grief and loss, definitely over 18. But unfortunately, in a way, I've actually had some clients, patients that were, I'm trying to think, like 25, like in their early 20s, things of that nature. But predominantly, I've worked with people that were older, like the 65 plus type of population.
I'm pushing it there. Be careful.
Sorry.
Okay, so
But-
but why did you even get into this?
that is a great question. To be honest with you, and I'll try to condense the story, but in essence, throughout my whole schooling, right, like kindergarten up until college, I thought I was going into elementary ed. Speaking of talking about children, right, I thought I was going to work with kids. I went to school. I'll throw out a yay to UCF. I went to undergrad at UCF, and I went in as a elementary ed major. And to be quite frank with you, I didn't want to do the math courses that were associated with that program. So I went to my advisor and expressed what my concerns were and whatnot. And she said, "Why don't you go into social work?" I said, "Okay." I did it, and that seemed to be a great fit for me. And I thought I wanted to go into, which I still have an interest in, like relationships, like dating in particular, those type of partnerships.
When I write my book, you can read that.
Oh, awesome. Okay. So,
That'll give you some insight to make your head spin.
yeah, for sure. Oh, well, hey, I'm always open to that. But so I thought I was going to do that. But my internship at the end ended up being in a hospital. But on an ortho floor, so it wasn't nothing to do with grief and loss per se. It was, your typical standard procedures for knees and hips and whatnot. But once I graduated, I was looking for a job and applying everywhere. I felt honestly almost hopeless because I was like, it was months and I was like, nobody's biting. Found a hospice organization position actually in the Jacksonville area. So I went up there for a little bit. And they gave me an opportunity. So I essentially fell into grief and loss arena. It wasn't necessarily I was looking for it.
Is
Yeah.
big into that.
Yeah.
And to work for hospice, to do anything for hospice, in my opinion, you have to be a bit of an angel. I don't think it's something that I would be able to do.
Yeah.
I did think when I was younger that I would be a social worker.
Mm-hmm.
Coming from an issue where I dealt with being sexually abused as a kid,
Right.
I felt that I kind of got the feel for how to deal with kids that way.
Mm-hmm.
But that ended up not being my path.
Right.
And this I just fell into by accident. I was actually in real estate for years.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I did quite well in Jersey. But
Mm-hmm.
it's always interesting to me. So you decide to get into this.
Right.
Did you get family support?
I did. I was very thankful and I'll say lucky or blessed, for that. My family has always been very supportive of my goals, dreams, what I want to aspire to do. So they're, essentially what they want is to make sure I'm okay, right? That it's sustainable and stable and things of that nature. So they were very supportive of my decision. So that was super
I
helpful.
think one of the things that made me change was the amount of time it would take to
Mm,
learn and get the certificates or the credibility and stuff that you
yeah,
needed
yeah.
to get into what you are into.
It does take some time, yeah.
And the sad part about it
Hmm.
is that it comes from the heart
Hmm.
more over from any piece of paper that anybody might get.
It's very true.
Okay,
Hmm.
um, being an empath to me is very important in that scenario. And
Yeah.
you came out with the things that you said, and that's because you, in my opinion, you are an empath, and that's hard sometimes because you're taking in other people's feelings.
Yeah.
And when you're in a room with a lot of people, it's even harder to deal with. Have you seen changes in the industry since you started?
I would say so. I mean, again, I feel like the obvious in a sense is again like technology, right?
Right.
Like where there's more accessibility to getting support on through like online or like you mentioned on the phone, things of that nature. So, yes, I feel like I have seen that and I feel like people have uh, maybe they're I feel like they're getting a little bit more comfortable to approach getting help and support in that sense. Because again, I feel like still to a degree that grief and loss is I'll use the word taboo. I don't know lightly or not, but it's still a little bit of a sensitive area. Even though all of us, like you mentioned too,
We
your
all
own
have trauma,
experiences, yeah.
all
Hmm.
of us. So, is there an area that you enjoy more working within, and as compared to other areas? I know, gotta working with loss has got to be really brutal.
You know what? It can be, and I'm smiling or smirking because again, I just feel like it can be. And some people say to me, or like, how do you do it, right? Like, how does this not like wear you down or
Right.
whatnot? I don't I don't want to say I don't know, but like I just feel like I've always been a person, um, just really recognizing the importance of self care and really doing whatever you need to do to maintain that. Like I won't go on and on, but like I definitely take care of myself. I work out regularly. I get my massages, my facials, all the things. Like spend time with family and loved ones because it's important. Like I'm not a machine, right?
And
So
I get that because,
yeah.
I've been on my deathbed 3 times,
Mm.
and I
Whoa.
think the reason that I heal well is comes from the mind. I think the
Hmm.
mind is where you heal from first.
Yes.
Okay, they say, and you can probably appreciate this, that if you're dealing with someone who's dealing with grief,
Hmm.
if they're going to fall into that grief, they're going to hurt even worse themselves.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so, and I had a premature baby, I told you,
Hmm.
and I fell into this grief issue because we lost a child and stuff,
Sure.
and I didn't work, I didn't want to do anything,
Right.
and who did that affect? Me.
Yep.
Okay,
Hmm.
couldn't pay my bills, so my grief and loss turned into a nightmare, and I had no one to talk to.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so that's the importance of having that person to talk to, knowing that you have someone to go to.
Right.
Okay, and I don't want to say that you have to know everything.
Yeah.
Okay,
Hmm.
because you're going to learn, I guess, as you go along and talk to more and more people.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I think that it's nice being able to vent, to
Hmm.
call you and vent to you.
Yep.
So, how does the process go before we run out of time?
Uh-huh.
So, let's just say I lost a family member and it's bothering me.
Hmm.
I pick up the phone and I call you.
Yes.
Do we have a consultation? I mean, how does that work?
That's a great question. Yes, I would say definitely give me a call and we can discuss like yeah, like a brief consultation, maybe like 10, 15 minutes. And then I can go a little bit further in regards to how to proceed with follow like, continuing on with sessions and therapy. Because I do offer multiple options,
Right.
whatever's comfortable for you. I also, again, won't go on and on, but of course, the private pay, self-pay, insurances, things of that nature. I'm accredited with certain insurances, so kind of the nitty gritty. We'd
We
follow
don't
up
like to
with.
talk about the
No,
nitty-gritty.
we don't want to. We won't go
That's
too
more
much.
grief. That's more grief for us.
We won't go too
But
much into that. Yeah.
I hate to say it this way.
Mhm.
The problem is if we don't think we're worth it,
Right.
then we're not going to make it anyway.
That
So,
is very true.
okay. So if you don't think it's worth $65 for a massage or whatever,
Yeah.
okay, then whatever benefit that would have given you, you're not going to get.
Right.
Okay. So, but you'll go out and spend $12 for a cup of Starbucks coffee.
Exactly.
Okay. So, is what's more important, your mental health or taking in all the crap that's in those drinks and stuff?
I agree. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's another time to go into that.
And I
I agree with that.
I know that there's a lot of platforms that you can work in
Sure. Yes.
and do work in.
Mhm.
Okay, but grief and loss to me, only because of what I went through, was a little easier for me to talk about
Yeah.
because I had some knowledge, not a lot, but I had some knowledge.
Right.
How do people find you? Have a phone number?
Yes, I do have a phone number.
Do you know it by heart?
Do I know it by heart?
Is it on the screen?
Is it on the screen? I believe I do know it by heart.
Okay, well, we'll put it on the screen.
Just in case, though, because now, when you second guess yourself.
It's on the screen, I believe.
Yes.
And it is 772?
Yes,
Go ahead.
410-4929.
Technology. See, we work in the
I
space of technology
know.
too. It's a great thing. And you can't, it's interesting because I always ask people before they get on air because they won't remember, because it's a number, our numbers, meaning our
Yeah.
work numbers, we don't always remember because we
Yes.
know everybody else's,
Yes.
but not ours.
Right, because
Okay.
again, the cliche that we don't necessarily call ourselves type of thing,
Right.
the work
What's
number
my
in particular.
grandmother's number from 60-something years ago, NIA 2397? I know that by heart. I can't remember why I walked into a room, but I know that by heart.
It's normal.
But like I said to you guys a million times, it's so important to use a professional. If you don't use a professional, one, in the long run, it's going to cost you 5 times more than if you use a professional. And it'll cost you 10 times more in frustration. And we're not an island unto ourselves. Sometimes it takes a village. And you need to, it's not I always say it in a different way because of what I do, but it's not a hand out. She's not giving a hand out, she's giving a hand up.
Yeah.
Okay? Everybody, check her out. Thank you
Thank
so much
you.
for coming on.
Thank you so much.
Everybody will be right back.